Hi everyone, I'm Kathleen O'Connell, National Education Director for the New York Times. We're pleased to have Catherine St. Louis with us today. Catherine has been at the Times since 1999 and currently is a health reporter in the science section. Catherine will discuss health and wellness and why it matters in college and beyond. We welcome all of you to join the conversation. Simply type your questions in the space provided. So, unfortunately, the rumors about the freshman 15 are often true. And it's also true that when thousands of students from all over the world come together in small classrooms and residence halls, they share a lot of germs. So we're excited to hear from you, Catherine.
Thanks so much for having me. I think many times in high school you've probably daydreamed of the day that you would be on your own and you wouldn't have a parent nagging you to turn off your iPhone or head to bed or to eat more healthy food. But now you're a freshman. It's your show. You get to call the shots. And maybe it's a little scary because suddenly you're the one in the driver's seat making all these choices. I feel like the best advice I ever got was to make a plan. And by that I don't mean like whiteboard what you're going to eat or anything like that, but just check in with yourself as you go about your choices. So one great example is I feel like you've got to make time for sleep. It might feel like you can just wing this one, go to bed at 1 one night, pull an all-nighter, go to bed at 10 another night. But I think the best way to get routine sleep, good sleep, regimented sleep is to just choose a bedtime. You're not going to make it every night, but if you don't say, hey, I'm going to try to get to bed by 11 p.m. every night, if you don't choose a time, you're definitely never going to have a sort of semi-regular bedtime. So that's the first thing I would say. Some of the sleep problems in college you don't anticipate. You don't think to yourself, hey, I'm going to have a roommate that snores. Or, hi, I'm going to go to bed every night at 12 and everyone else in my dorm stays up till 4. Some of the things that helped me is white noise machine. You maybe don't know what that is, but it basically, all that background noise goes away. A fan can help too. Make all that background noise go away so that you can actually get like the restful sleep, even if it's only 7 hours that you get. CDC actually says you should be getting 7 to 9, FYI. That seems pretty high to me, but at least if you're scheduling a bedtime, you're going to try to make that, and that will help you. Another thing, we live in the age of constant screens. Right now, when I get home and it's dinner time, I pop my phone in a shoebox. You could do the same, right? Say at 10:30, before you head to bed at 11, put that phone in a shoebox and forget about it. Otherwise, your sleep just ends up being the times like between wee hour texts from that guy in chemistry class that you have a crush on. You just need to put the screens away at a certain point so that you can kind of get your rest. The other thing too, I think, is one trap that you can fall into is studying in your room and on your bed. I think that you kind of have to separate your workspace from your study space. When I was a senior, actually, I was writing my thesis and I was completely stressed out. I just couldn't get my head around it. I was facing writer's block. I was supposed to write something crazy, like 60, 70 pages. And one of the big mistakes I made was that I kept trying to write in the dead of night. Like if I couldn't sleep, I'd just think to myself, well, maybe I should get up and be working. And I actually ended up going to like student services and health services and talking to a counselor. And one of the best things they said was separate your workspace from your sleep space. And what do you know? As soon as I put my laptop in a hideaway place in the library and I only wrote for the time that I was in the library focusing on my thesis, guess who was back to sleeping? Sometimes it's like little tricks. One thing that I do regret not doing is going to student services kind of before I needed student services to sort of figure out like, hey, what does my university or college have in terms of health that can help me? They could have free flu shots. They can have birth control plan. They can help you make great choices. Most of them have mental health counseling. You kind of don't want to wait until you need these things. to sort of be able to access those services, you want to have a good idea of like, hey, if it's 3 in the morning and I think I have the flu and my fever is 103, whether or not there's actually like a clinic at that time. So I would go and kind of get that information from the get-go. Why not? If you don't end up needing it or getting the flu, your roommate might need it. So the other thing that is absolutely key is making a plan with alcohol. You might not drink. I had one of my 4 college roommates never drank in college. She probably still doesn't drink. But even if you don't drink, you're going to be influenced by alcohol in college. 4 out of 5 students drink, according to NIH, and they say about half of those binge drink. Binge drinking is 4 or more drinks for a woman and 5 or more drinks for a man in a short period of time. Even though you might think to yourself, I'm not a binge drinker, I just drink for fun. Here's why binge drinking could happen to you. The reason why is that, I mean, have you ever seen 1.5 ounces of rum? Like, is that how people party, that they give you 1.5 ounces of rum? No, somebody hands you a rum and Coke and you drink it. So a lot of the times you're not even aware of how much alcohol you're drinking. So that's frankly why in college, if I did decide to drink, a beer in a can is sort of like, oh, I know that this is one drink. That's like an easy way to kind of keep track of how much you're drinking. And you should be keeping track. It's not supposed to be some sort of free-for-all. The other awesome tip that I'd had in college was alternating a drink with a cup of water. Not only do you take a little break and have to go find water at a party, but also it gives you sort of a moment to sort of check in and figure out like how you're feeling and how boozy you feel, and also check in excuse me, with friends to sort of see how they're doing. So it's not just sort of an endless stream of like, hey, I'm not really sure how much I drank tonight. So that's some of the advice for alcohol that I would give. But again, it all comes back to this sort of theme of like, you need to check in with yourself and sort of figure out, if you're not going to make a plan about alcohol, like you at least need to figure out like, hey, what are my choices and what are the habits I keep making? I ran track in college, so there was really only one night to go out hard, and that was Saturday after a meet. But my freshman year, I learned a lot because I was actually injured. So I really did have the kind of normal collegiate life that wasn't the student athlete life my freshman year. And one of the things I learned is, yeah, I can go out 3 times a week, and yes, I can drink 3 drinks, you know, for each time I go out. But things start to happen, right? I'm a morning riser. I would still get up at like 7. I would be perpetually exhausted. There were things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do because I was just kind of cranky. And so I realized, hey, you know what? It works better for me to only go out 1 night a week and go out hard that night and have a lot of fun. And actually, one thing that I started to do that I think is actually super interesting is to go out and not drink and sort of see like what a drinking scene seems like when you're sober. Not only will your crush maybe not look as cute, but you also start to observe sort of your friends and start to make real friends, like instead of acquaintance friends or drinking buddies or that guy who hands you a beer, and actually have, what do you know, like real conversations when you're out, and make friends that you would actually go and do something else besides party with. All valuable lessons. I always had Thursday night be the night that I would go out and not drink and go home early to get some rest before a meet. The other thing that I would say is that food is one of those things that can kind of slip up on you. Kathleen mentioned the freshman 15. I'm not sure I believe in the freshman 15, but I do think that when you're in college, you're under such a tremendous amount of stress that I do believe in stress eating. And I do believe that you eat what's convenient. And there were far too many vending machine dinners before I sort of realized, hey, Skittles is sort of no way to fuel a life. I kind of need protein and these weird things called vegetables, so maybe I should actually make a plan here. So what I ended up actually doing in college is basically lunchtime I was a vegetarian. It was pre-Mark Bittman making his choices about being vegan up until 6, but call me a forerunner. I would always at lunch have mostly vegetarian food and have like meat later in the day. And it was just this way of getting in like a big old salad, a ton of vegetables, keeping myself healthy by getting that in. Because later, sometimes after track practice, I was kind of eating on the go and would just like have a handful of nuts or some of those good like kind fruit and nut bars or good convenient snacks to keep on you. I basically made very good friends with dried apricots in college. I know it sounds random, but they're full of iron and I was always anemic, and it was an easy way to kind of keep a snack on hand that, that I could turn to instead of the aforementioned Skittles. I think that for even super smart people, you can kind of get into bad habits. Like I thought back to my college last night and was thinking of a roommate who was complaining because she felt like sluggish and she was gaining weight and she just couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I sort of said, hey, so what are you eating besides like froyo or frozen yogurt? And she sort of gave me this puzzled look like, what now? And I said, well, maybe you're feeling not so great because your idea of a meal is like a large frozen yogurt, and your idea of a drink is like a Diet Coke. So it's kind of like reinforcing your sleeplessness, and basically like fat-free froyo is like, again, not a substance. It's dessert. And once she started realizing, hey, yeah, maybe I should go to the cafeteria with you guys instead of like cramming through lunch and cramming through dinner, what do you know? She started to feel better, and you know, she's a very smart girl, but at the same time, you get stressed enough and you don't have a plan, and that's where you're going to end up. Another thing that I think you should keep in mind, and it's just a general theme, is that you in college you have to be aware of your life and be aware of your choices, and that's kind of the best advice I could give you. I know it sounds frightfully obvious, right? Of course you're aware. But actually, just like my friend Sarah, she wasn't kind of aware of the choices you're making. And I also think one of the things about being healthy is also trying to figure out like who your real friends are. Like a real friend isn't really somebody who posts a picture of you super drunk on Facebook, right? A real friend isn't someone you necessarily meet out drinking. It's the friend that you notice is kind of eating nothing but rice, so you sort of say like, hey, is there anything going on with you? Or the friend you notice just hasn't been the same since they hooked up with a certain guy, so you sort of ask about it. College is an opportunity to kind of build relationships, and that's one way that you're really going to stay healthy, because you're not going to make it through by being an island and being on your own. Some of the best friendships are born when you sort of see other people in trouble, or you yourself have to ask for trouble, either at health services or either from a friend for whatever health concern that you have. But if you don't have those friends you trust, then you might not get there. So that's like a building block, I think, to a healthy life too. So that's all I've got. I hope you guys have questions for me. I'd love to answer them.
Great, thanks so much, Catherine. So, so it's so important to have a plan and be aware of choices, and
Definitely.
really, real friends don't make you eat that donut. So just be aware of that. What about just kind of having, and I think you talked about a routine, like getting up in the morning and actually getting dressed, rather than it's so easy to kind of stay in your pajamas all day.
Definitely. And I think also having a routine that's a 7-day routine rather than I live my life a certain way from Monday to Friday, and then the weekend is completely different. Then I stay up till like 4 in the morning and I sleep till 2. It makes Monday morning like super hard. But I think one thing that should be part of your routine that you need to kind of think about is, when am I going to exercise? And by that, it doesn't need to be like what I did in terms of like joining Division I track and working out twice a day. And you could, you could bike ride to class. You could make a date to walk with a friend. I have friends that were sort of on their ultimate Frisbee team. I have other friends who sort of went to the same yoga three times a week to keep up with a friend that they often don't hang out with. that's a good way to kind of get that routine in. But again, it all comes back to if you don't make a plan to kind of exercise with that buddy, you're never going to get there.
Great. Okay, we have a question. What about vitamins and supplements? Any recommendations? Do I really need them?
I think that the best kind of vitamins you're going to get are in real food. I wouldn't say that you need to take any vitamins, but then again, I think you should probably consult your doctor. Like I mentioned, I happen to be anemic, so there was a time for part of college I was actually taking iron pills, but I got them through my doctor. He was the one to tell me that I was anemic. It seemed like a good thing to do. But he also, again, told me the foods that I need to kind of be eating slightly more of to kind of get my iron levels up. So I actually wouldn't bother with vitamins. I would bother with real food, whole food. Imagine that.
I so agree with that. What about late night eating? Someone wants to know, how late is too late for eating a meal?
I don't, I know there are some people who subscribe by this. I know Oprah apparently doesn't eat carbs after 8. I'm not sure that that's terribly realistic for a collegiate life. Personally, I snacked right up until the time that I went to bed. It was more that I tried to stay aware of when I was stress eating and not really truly hungry, and when I was actually really truly hungry and hadn't had enough for dinner and did need to eat. I don't really think there's any reason to eat pizza late night, but you're going to do it. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't make it a nightly habit, and I think you're going to be fine.
Great. And also, talking about the health and wellness facilities, when should we go when feeling stress or mental health issues?
Here's the thing. I think you should go before you need it. I sort of think you should go and survey the field, right? It's not just about figuring out what kind of mental health services they have, what kind of flu clinics they have, what kind of birth control counseling they have. All of that. You kind of want to get the lay of the land. So I would go before you need it. I would go the first 2 weeks of school, before flu season hits. And you guys have already started on this, but this is the prime time to get flu shots. So, why not go check it out and see what they've got? When I went, I realized that I could, back home in Massachusetts, I had been getting allergy shots for a series of allergens like trees and grasses. And it was only when I went to the health services at college that I realized, oh, I can keep getting those shots here with a nurse. So there's also like continuity of care issues. Like if you had a therapist back home in high school, that therapist can talk to someone or maybe even refer someone for you to talk to in your new hometown, your college town. Obviously, there's going to be that continuity of care if you have, any psychiatric drugs that you're on or anything like that. But you can also have that on a lesser scale, like I did with allergy drugs.
Great. We have another question. Did you adjust your lifestyle with weather?
I'm not sure I understand that. Adjust my lifestyle with weather?
Probably in winter, getting different exercise, I would imagine, and studying habits, just changing
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. In winter, I sort of feel like I know it's crazy, but I made a point of running outside even though it was completely cold, because I did feel like I needed that vitamin D. But I'm not sure I really changed my routine that much in winter. I'm not sure why.
You still exercised. And
Definitely.
flip-flops in the shower.
Exercise was easy. In terms of exercise, being a student athlete, that's the easiest part of your schedule because someone else is still telling you what to do. A coach is kind of a substitute parent, right? They really do get in your face and say you have to be here at 7 a.m. to do this pool thing, and then you have to be in the weight room at this time. So that was actually the easiest part of my schedule as a student athlete. It was figuring out all the rest of the stuff, like how do when's the best time to study for the subject that I'm worse at? That's when I would sort of schedule that study time when I was sort of most alert in the morning between classes. While I feel like I could read a novel and be good on that pretty late into the night. But I couldn't really do math homework or my biology homework. I had to do that in the morning because those subjects I wasn't really as competent at.
Okay, great. We have another question. How private should I be about certain medical issues with roommates? friends, especially if I have a certain condition?
I think it comes back to how I sort of ended my talk. I think that, you know, I keep my private stuff pretty close to the vest. I feel like it takes me a while until I really know who's a true friend. The feeling that I sort of got in college is they're the friends that are sort of like acquaintances that you're chummy with, and then there's like the true friends that you build over time, and you probably don't even know who those people are yet. It's really early in your freshman experience, and I probably pinned those people down by the end of freshman year, even going into sophomore year. And that's when I feel like you basically have to go through things and let people get to know you over time before you kind of know who's the gal who's gonna care for me and be there for me no matter what. I think in the beginning it's really easy to get confused about who is just an acquaintance and a chatty friend and who's like a lifelong one. And I'm happy to say the 2 or 3 gals that I picked by the end of freshman year are still friends of mine. You know, they're the people I get together with, their husbands, their kids. So take your time. Choose your friends wisely. I don't think you have any reason to disclose your medical information if you don't feel comfortable yet with your roommate. You have to have a good working relationship with your roommate and good communication and good respect. But they don't need to know your medical stuff if you don't want them to. That's fine.
So the bottom line, Catherine, really is that students who are healthy in mind and body are much more likely to succeed in college than those who aren't.
Definitely. I love it when people sort of say that like sleep doesn't matter. And yet when you think about it, sleep is so connected to not only academic success, but just that cranky mood that you might be in. And I feel like sleep is also, alcohol and sleep are also connected. So when people say, oh, it's not really a big deal that I drink 5 times a week. So really, because alcohol is like a sedative and it might feel like it helps you sleep better, but actually in the dead of night, you're not getting that deep sleep that you kind of need. So I actually think picking and choosing the nights you drink really does actually have an impact. It's all connected. So if you want to kind of be healthy, you not only have to make a plan and be aware, but you have to kind of realize how things affect you and learn the cause and effects in your own life and kind of make the tweaks that are going to make you the healthiest you can be.
Great. Thanks so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks.